So today we are going to continue our trek through the islands of Scotland, going through the various whiskies. We'll do Jura, we'll do Arran, we'll do Skye. We'll ignore the existence of Mull because we forgot about that. Well, we didn't
By
forget.
we meaning I thought I had a bottle of Ledaig, which is the peated Tobermory, right? Right,
That's
Gary?
correct. That's
Well,
correct.
what I actually have is a 15-year Port Escague, which is a rebottled, apparently, Bruichladdich. So, mea culpa, the fine people of Mull, this is not a reflection on you. We're not skipping. For all of our thousands of listeners on the island of Mull, we did not. I did not mean to besmirch your fine island or your fine whiskey. It was a mistake on my part. Please forgive me. We can talk about Mull anyway. Just
We can't
we're not
just
gonna
throw
be
out some
drinking anything from
factoids.
Mull.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, pass for it. Yeah.
Listen, we can't let the fourth largest Scottish island go untalked about on this show.
Okay. You can be forgiven.
say-
You can be forgiven. That now means you have to go and buy a bottle of it and add that to your collection, Ryan.
Listen, I'll take
Mhm.
that punishment any day. Even though there's a legend that there is a shipwreck laden with gold at the bottom of Tobermory Bay, the real treasure is the Scotch from Tobermory Distillery.
Which we're not going to taste today.
We'll come back.
Nice.
We'll come back to their distillery
That's
and all the glory that is the island of
I'm sure
Mull.
the island of Mull.
Uh,
So let's talk geography.
This episode is sponsored by the Mull Tourism Board.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about some geography.
Okay.
Actually, since I can actually use my T-shirt here. So we were up here somewhere in Orkney. I've not actually got an island on there.
We're up near Gary's sternum.
Yes, we're up there. towards the sternum, like
last
that.
exciting
We're up
episode, we
here.
were visiting
Up here
sternum. Yeah.
in Orkney, which we're up here. And what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the rest of the island. Something to the rest of the islands. We're going to come down here to around this area down here. We're going to actually start down here. Now, just to give an idea about Scotland and its islands, there's 790 islands around Scotland.
790.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they're like little rock. There's little rocks, small rocks. There's only about 20 to 25 of them that you actually pay attention to. And like you've seen Orkney, the Shetlands, that's a set of islands.
mhm.
About north. But then when you come down here, you've got two sets of islands. You've got there's an inner set of islands called the Inner Hebrides, and there's an outer set of islands called the Outer Hebrides. And where we're going to be tasting today will be all the Inner Hebrides islands. And
So,
I think what we'll do is
Gary.
we'll start down the bottom.
Are there any distilleries on the island of Barra? Because I would love to visit your right nipple.
No, there's no distillery there yet.
Okay. Yes. All right.
So we got 790 islands in Scotland. Just quick question: is this
Yeah.
like the Bahamas, where like people will just own an island and that's just theirs? Do they do
That's
that?
correct. That's correct. If you want to
Wow.
own an island in Scotland and be the laird of your lands,
Are you a lord
Island
automatically?
island, you could be that. Yeah, well, you could be the laird of your land.
So I don't
Or,
want to
like,
brag.
would you be calling yourself a lord, or would there be like a coat of arms involved? Like,
Well,
how do you?
there is actually, you can register for those
Really?
things, and you can, yes, you can purchase it. Yeah.
Okay,
but
so-
anyway, let's get drinking.
Oh yeah,
Lord
need that.
Ryan, I like the
Yeah.
sound of that. Lord
Dude,
Ryan.
I am.
Yeah.
My wife bought me a square foot of Scottish soil from a thing, and so I am. I think I went with Lord, but I may be Laird Chance Hartman.
Lord
Yeah.
Hartman up in here.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so where are we starting exactly here?
So let's start. We're going to start down in Arran,
All right.
right? So that's like the most southern island we're going to be starting with. This
Gary
one-
with his 18-year flex. We've got the 14, Chance and myself.
Okay. We're going to try this one. So obviously, Arran's they like don't really make peated whiskies down there. I mean, the island they were making them since the 1800s, but a lot of the distilleries closed down, and the actual Arran distillery didn't actually open up until was it 93?
94, yeah, right? 95?
94, yeah. I think they broke ground in 93. I think the first spirit was 95, June 95. I'm just looking at a note here. In a place called Lacanza, which is the north of the island. Arran is called Little Scotland now and again because you've got this island, and it's just off the coast. It's actually beside Campbelltown, It's way down. If it was way down here, it's way down round about here. This little
Okay.
island down here, and it's down. Checking myself here. Yeah, it's just actually it's an inside of Campbelltown, and it's called Miniature Scotland because it's actually in this island. It's got like highlands at the north of it, and that's actually where the distillery is, and then the lowlands to the south of it. So it's like a miniature Scotland landscape that they've got there.
Huh.
Anyway, so Aaron,
Cheers.
so one of you, yeah, cheers, guys.
Slange.
Slange.
So this is bottled at a fairly hefty 46% ABV, at least the 14-year is.
Oh.
And just one thing I've said before, but I just love their label design. Look at this beautiful lavender color with the gold. I just think this is a lovely bottle, extremely tasteful.
Yeah. Well,
really nice gold filigree.
I'm about to shatter you with that one. They've actually just rebranded their entire range.
No.
Because just this year, or between last year and this year, because to the south of the island, they've opened up an old distillery called Lag, L-A-G-G. It was just started last year. So in a couple of years, and they're going to do some peated whiskies. So Arran is now, really, this one's not peated, but they're going to do some peated. So look out in the future. They're kind of going to brand the two distilleries together as the Arran distilleries.
Are they gonna? I'm wondering if they're gonna. So okay, Arran is the only distillery that's authorized to use Robert Burns, National Poet of Scotland, both his picture and his signature as a part of their advertising stuff because they're a part of the World Robert Burns Foundation.
Yes.
I'm wondering if in their rebranding they're going to incorporate that because that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they probably will have they'll maybe have some of his words at the bottom of bottles and things, but they're going for a totally different style. You'll probably see it afterwards. But I actually like, to your point, Ryan, I really liked the style they're doing here.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah,
it's tasteful.
The colourings, it's tasteful, it's everything. It's a lovely bottle. They've got like picture, and on the actual bottle, on the neck of the bottle, they've got a couple of eagles that are flying on the neck of the bottle.
Yeah, mine's got that too.
Yeah,
wow.
And that's
I didn't notice that until now.
Yeah, that's
for all of my loving this bottle, I never noticed the eagles. And there's some fine detail on these eagles. You see the individual feathers are actually like in there. It's just really good design, I feel.
Yeah.
And good whiskey. Let's segue into the actual product.
Actual product, yeah.
I suspect this is bourbon only. Anybody else want
to? Oh, it's got to be bourbon only. I don't smell any other casks in there.
Yeah, it's a bourbon cask. It's got some nice. So we basically got the same whiskey. I've just got it 4 years older than yours, so we're both tasting the same one.
I wish we could compare, but I find this to be fairly clean. It tastes, I feel, a little younger than 14.
Yeah.
Kind of my yardstick for this is the 12-year single barrel Balvenie bourbon cask.
Yeah.
Which is super refined.
Yeah, this is very light on that.
It's very crisp. Yeah, it's crispy. The finish is fairly transient as well.
I'm getting a little bit of cereal. Is what flavor I'm getting.
Oh yeah, definitely. So on the nose I get some floral, just a little bit of maybe some maybe some of the more dull florals like old roses or something like that sort of stuff, like an older, maybe even a dead flower. So not
old dead flowers.
Yeah, so like not potpourri where it's sharp and astringent, but like the lower earthy flower. And then cereal, breads, maybe oatmeal on the front.
Yeah, and there's a sweetness there as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting there.
Oh, it's lovely.
Lovely. Yeah, it's a nice start.
It's so clean. It's just super clean. There's really, it seems to be very targeted. I find that.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is when they opened up the distillery, they really had the range, and they had to build up. And so it's only now they're bringing out these older bottles that they've got. I think it was actually maybe 21, but they're only starting to now bring out the older bottles.
That's right. Aaron Mull can vote now in the U.S.
Yes. Yes.
Or no, they can buy alcohol in the U.S.
and in the UK they could do that 18. So this
That's
one
true.
is.
This is lovely, but it would be very like it's not real overpowering. This would be good in a tasting for a new drinker.
Oof, I'm getting super strong cereal on the finish now.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
it?
Like it's like
Yeah.
cornflakes, legit.
It's got a long finish on there.
Yeah. Okay, I said it had a short finish before, but I'm feeling that it's just very subtle.
Oh, speaking of it opening, the Eagles on the bottle. When they were building the distillery, they had to shut down construction for a while because a couple of golden eagles built a nest on the cliff, like right next to where they were building.
Oh man.
And it's a protected species, so they had to like shut it down and wait for him to leave.
The Eagles were probably bummed because they wanted that good distillery real estate,
I
swoop
mean,
in and
Yeah.
for sure.
grab a dram, yeah.
Yep. And so that basically you bring it all the way back to the bottle because the eagles can be seen swooping over the distillery.
Mm.
And I think that's
Everything
what
just
they're doing
lined
with the
up.
collection. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
terrific.
That's what it was when they probably put that in the bottle. Somebody's been doing some canny marketing because they see the eagles when you visit a distillery.
It's this kind of quality content that Mull is missing out on. I'm so sorry, Mull.
Do you know what? I might have a final drink at the end and just actually have a Mull one.
I mean, they did pay us.
We're gonna come back. We're gonna do an entire episode that's just Toblerone Distillery.
So I'm gonna add some water to this, see if it opens up at anything less than 46. See what happens here.
That's good. Oh, I left my
good.
thing downstairs.
I added 5 drops of water.
I think that will totally open up. I think with that being the 46, it'll be.
What do you have in the 18? Is the 18 also 46?
Yeah, it's the exact same.
Okay.
I think it's the exact same. I'll probably just they've aged the barrels just a couple of more years before bottling. So I'm saying, so it's probably even out the same barrels.
Actually, I don't think the water
Did not do
did
much.
this any harm. No, it didn't do any harm. I think it is opened up a little bit.
Yeah, because it's quite a. I think with the 46, quite a tight flavour in there. I mean, it's very fine. It's got all the things we were tasting. I think it'll do any harm from that.
Yeah, this is not a huge whiskey. It's the flavor profile I feel is a fairly narrow band here. I think it's delicious though. It's very refreshing. It's almost
a shame to leave the island. Move on to another island.
But until they finish up with Lag, Arran's the only distillery that. No, wait, Arran has more than just one distillery, right?
No, this is the only distillery and the distillery's in the town of Lacanza. That's to the north. And then the other distillery, so you'll call that Lacanza, and the other one in the south is Lag. But both of them together are the Arran distillery.
I agree. It is sad to move on, but we must go to the island of Jura.
So on the Jura one, we've got different bottles again, but I think you guys have got like something special there. Because Jura's another one that we'll talk about the aging of it, but I'm going to be tasting the 18 Jura.
Nice. And
Ryan, do you have the bottle, the one you guys are tasting?
Yes, I do. The bottle is as you can see, it's got hips. It's these hips don't lie right here, and it promises a delicious dram. And the label promises rich and full-bodied. That is what it says.
And which Jura is it you guys are having?
21.
The 21, exactly.
Boom.
Nice.
So once more,
this
slightly different ones. Now, I'm kind of like cheating. Mine has been like finished in some red wine casks.
Oh.
So it's going to have a little bit of different flavour, but I mean, roughly we'll go, it's a Jura one, that's good expression. Let's talk about that bottle a second. You were talking about the hips that it's got on it.
Yeah.
Do you know some of the story behind the hips?
I don't. I would love to learn though. Yeah.
Well, to the north, so Jura is like a little island. It's like, seriously, it's like about 100, maybe 200 yards from Islay. From where Bunnahabhain is, there's a little port over there, and you basically go back and forward on a little ferry, and that's actually how you get to the island of Jura. You can't actually go directly to Jura. You have to come to Islay, and then go across on the ferry to Jura.
Yeah, I heard it's really hard to get to.
Yeah, there's only a couple of hundred people there on the island.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. And one of the attributes of the island is, and you'll know it because of drinking other whiskies, the name of this is they've got a famous whirlpool that's off the northern edge of it, off one of the edges, and this whirlpool is out in the sea, and it goes round and round, and it's called Corryvreckan. So if you've ever had Ardbeg Corryvreckan,
My first Scotch.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a whirlpool that's just
Wow.
off there. But that whirlpool has a shape to it, and it's actually considered one of the most treacherous parts of the sea around the Great Britain because of like the things that can happen with the natural whirlpool that's established there.
Gary, you weren't lying.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 feet from Port Escaig to the Phelan Ferry. There's no bridge. It's like narrower than Town Lake, and
yeah,
there's no bridge.
And these guys just go back and forward on a little ferry all day, take you back and forward, and you could. I mean, there's only maybe like 200 people on the island. The population's small.
So it's a pretty big ass island. So why aren't there more folks there?
Well, okay, so George Orwell used to live there. The guy who wrote 1984, like the book that everybody talks about when they talk, whatever.
Big Big Brother's watching you, the dystopian future.
Yeah.
Nowhere near anything we have today. That guy was writing about.
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't live in a dystopian future where people are constantly monitoring our every move at all.
No, exactly.
But he was quoted. What was his quote? He was quoted that the Isle of Jura is extremely unget-atable.
Exactly. Yeah, because he went there to write his final chapters of the book and finish it off, and it was just isolation.
Wikipedia says the island is mountainous, bare, and infertile, covered by extensive areas of bog. Okay, so 100 and some people love that bog action, I guess.
Yeah.
It does have a kind of...
You know that bog by something else. Yeah, but you know that bog by something else. That's the peat.
Ah.
That's the peat. So it's covered in peat. So it's the bog mossy, the bogs, the ones that make the peat. Another thing it's got, if you actually look at the pictures of it, it's got two mountains. I think I've told you this story before. It's got these two mountains, and the way they're shaped, they're called the Pats, P-A-T-S, and it basically looks like a lady lying down on the island, taken from like a side view like that. If you ever have a look at the picture, you'll see. No disrespect to ladies, but that's the name of the mountains it's called.
Well, the Grand Tetons here in the U.S., the same thing.
Exactly.
It means big breasts. And but I will tell you, looking at photos of the Paps of Jura, they look a lot more like breasts than the Grand Teton Mountains do. So score one to Scotland, I think, on this
thank you.
regard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about lairds earlier, and something I think is interesting about this Scotch is that Jura Distillery was founded by a laird, the Laird of Jura. It was founded by Archibald Campbell in 1810, the Laird of Jura. It's been in disrepair a bunch of times, been reopened a bunch of times, and then of course it's now owned by the Emperador Distilleries.
Yeah, it's a smaller one, and they were traditionally not making peated whiskies. And so that was one of the ones where the neighbours were making peated whiskies. Obviously, Jura will maybe try some.
Oh man, God, that's got a lovely nose to it. It's very subtle, but it's very lovely.
It has a sweetness. It has a certain sweetness to the nose. Like it's almost like syrupy on the nose for me. Not like maple syrup, but almost like treacle or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the one is you guys are getting a 21-year-old. So which is it? Is it 21 in a bourbon cask that you've got, or
This has got to be sherry. I think there's a ton of sherry in this.
Is a sherry one? Okay. Yeah. But I'm getting like a totally different vibe. I've got like this red wine finish. You get a really embodied and full-bodied whiskey. I mean, even the colour of it. I don't know if you can see the colour there. It's a nice, very deep, maybe not reddish hues on the amber there.
I quite like it. This is bottled at 44% for the 21 year. I kind of have a feeling that it might open up a bit if I had a little water, but we'll get there. So Gary, when a distillery is closed, are the stills just sitting there, or is the warehouse just sitting there? Or is the entire building torn down, they just build it in the same spot? Or how does that work?
A lot of the time, depending on the distillery, the equipment will just like sit in the distillery. Quite often they'll close it, and they don't even have the money sometimes because they've usually gone bankrupt or into liquidation. So sometimes they'll try and sell the stills to another distillery like that, and other than that, they'll probably just keep the buildings where they're at. But the Jura one was actually to that point. That was actually a new distillery. It was built when they took it back over. And from there, it was the people from the island, and they were trying to get something to give them a source of income for the future.
Yeah.
And so when they redid it, and you've probably read some stories, something roughly aligned to that. But then quite often when they come back in, they'll bring new modern equipment in, etc. And really, what you're going to get from the old to the new is the same source of water, and they're going to use maybe reuse some of the buildings like that. And an odd chance, some of them in Scotland, when you lifted them off, if the stills have been put into storage, then they'll maybe reuse the stills so they get some of the original characteristics, and if not, it's a brand new set of stills.
Interesting.
So,
I think what's the one we were talking about? You said, which one was the distillery with the short neck still? And that was like one of the Old Putney. That's one of the original stills, right? Like, so they're old. Yeah. They last forever, right? These stills.
Well, they don't. I mean, they'll change them out. I'm not actually sure the life of them, depending on the usage, but they're going to change them out. But when they do, and particularly with modern because basically when you think about it, you've got a copper still. So what's actually happening is over time, there's a chemical reaction of that, and this copper thins out in certain areas. So they basically have to redo the entire still. But the stills, when they do them, they're now, particularly nowadays, they've got good technology. They're going to building exact same replica of that still. And in fact, for a future one, we'll talk about stills. Actually, there's the companies that make it. There's only a couple of companies do it. They'll have the exact same replica of that still, down to if there's a dent somewhere on the still, they'll put the same dent back in. And so they'll go around and they'll bash it with a hammer to get any dents that were put in, so that the actual distillation process is the exact same. So that as the vapors are rising, they're bumping off the exact same spot as the wood on the old still to the new one to try and keep it. We'll come back to that now.
Why don't we go to the beautiful, gorgeous, and lovely Isle of Skye?
Isle of Mull. No, Skye.
Skye.
So since we're not going to Mull, we'll just have a couple of ones on Skye. Now, the Skye's like the largest of the islands in the Hebrides. It's a really beautiful island. If you had a chance to go to Scotland and there was one island you're going to visit, Skye's the island. I'll tell you, as much as I say island, because you want to go and visit all the smoky ones, so that's a trip unto itself. So, but the next island would be Skye, and just because of the sheer beauty of this island, all the scenery that you get on one, it's got like a landscape. It's got some sort of like moonscape type landscape of these mountains that are rising up, and then it's got all these different types of them, and it's exposed to the Atlantic, so there's a lot of just like misty weather that's coming off the sea, hitting it, and it's just got lots of special magical abilities that are mystical things that are happening there. It's got some fairy falls where people would go and visit to receive some of the magic. I think that's some stories from the Victorian times. But they've got like these fairy magic that's on the island. We're talking wizards, we're talking all the things to do with magical places that are there, as well as having some magical whiskey there. And the one we're going to talk about is Talisker.
I mean, that makes sense. They shot some movies there. There's been, Stardust with Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer. That had some scenes that were shot there. Prometheus, that had some scenes that were shot there, and I think that was several others. And one of the things I think is interesting is just the renowned agreement on just how beautiful this island is.
Yeah, and it's a big island. It's like the biggest of them. I can't remember how. It's so big that they built a bridge from the mainland to it. And it's the only island in Scotland that have done that. That's how, because it's just so popular. Yeah.
It's amazing that I think it's still like 1,000 feet from the mainland, but it feels like when you drive there, it's like a world away because of the way you get there and because of the lifestyle in the place, and being American, it's kind of hard to imagine a lack of homogeneity, in places you go, because, Texas is as large as the country of France in its entirety. And, you can drive for 800 miles and you'll be in El Paso, congrats, or you'll drive for 300 miles and be in Dallas. Congrats, the culture is largely the same, and the lifestyle is largely the same. Red-blue divide notwithstanding. And it's still almost hard for me to believe just that you can drive a geographically short distance, but be in a place that is a completely different culturally and scenery-wise, and it's amazing to me.
Yeah,
I gotta agree with Ryan. I mean, so as I was researching the islands for this episode, there were a couple of things I came across that I don't really understand as an American, but were really fascinating to me. One was the Lairds of Isles. That came up, and that's like the lords of all these various islands and that sort of thing. But the other was like certain islands would talk about how high their Gaelic population was, and how many people still spoke Gaelic, and they were different from each other, and like some of them, they do a lot of tourism, others, there's a lot of agriculture, others there's a lot. And it was one of my, honestly, of the episodes we've done, my favorite to research has been the islands, because every one of them is just fascinatingly different from all of the others, and they're right next to each other.
Right. Yeah, different island communities to each other. And you're going back, I mean, the whole Gaelic and Gaelic thing, so it's Gaelic is Irish and Gaelic is Scottish. So it's two different. Okay. It's written exactly the same, but that's the language, the ancient language there. And really, I suppose they're very much the same roots to each other. And it's only really spoken on the western side of Scotland. And that's where you got all these now, like, funny names like Uskaba, like the source of the whiskey. Like that. These are all the words that are out there. And for example, I come from the lowlands, and we don't speak that there. And we know some of the words because now, thanks to the whiskey, we actually keep in touch with it. But they've got their own TV channel as well. There's BBC Scotland, the Gaelic and that, and they've got some of the programmes still going out, and that one there. And if you go to the island now, you can maybe get a little exposure to some of that. That's just a good reason to go to the islands. So anyway, coming to Skye. In fact, Ryan, you've got a culinary edge to you. Skye is is the most amazing place for land, and we're going to talk about whiskey, but culinary as well. Believe it or not, it's got at one point it had 2 or 3 Michelin star restaurants on this island. Just think about that. You're talking about an island. Now you talk like Scotland, the country's got 5 million people, so you think, okay, the big cities would have the big restaurants, but Skye has got this special thing which has brought together this magic where chefs that are out there, they're producing some of the best food that you can have, and it's out there. And so once you've tasted your whiskey at Talisker, you can go to have like a delicious meal there as well. Anyway,
and I think I said this last time. One more thing: if the town of Portree, I suppose, is the capital of the island and the largest city. Gorgeous place. It looks like a little fairy tale town. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and that's what attracts all the tourists.
Yeah,
tourism is a problem over there because of the amount of people just want to go and see the enchantment of the island.
Pretty good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna emigrate someday, and I'll just live there. That, or maybe I'll go to Jura. There's only 200 people. I'm sure they could use one more.
201,
yeah, distillery man.
Yeah.
Get back to the country, shovel some peat, Yeah.
That's right. Hey, I'll be happy. I don't mind. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So are we going to start with the Talisker 10?
Shall we?
Yeah, we'll do the Talisker 10. But you guys are doing 10, and I'm going to do 18.
Oh, flexing.
Flexing again. I'm just flexing. Listen, one has to.
Straight flexing on us again.
Humble brag. I love it.
Let's talk about Talisker. So we were talking about, when we were in Orkney and doing Highland Park, we were talking about the different types of peat. And so we're talking about, like in Orkney, it's like you've kind of got 3 different types of peat. You get the mainland peat you've got in the Highlands, and then you've got this peat in Orkney, you got peat in Islay. And the Islay, it's a peat that's very maritime. It's got lots of those flavours. We'll talk about that another time. But for Skye, I'm about to do like a big like breaker. Is in Skye, they've actually stopped cutting peat because they have a peat depletion on the island, and they're actually using some from the Highlands just over. So what you're going to get is they're using a Métis peaty one. However, it's only got about a 20% peat content. So if you're taking like 100 pounds or 100 kilos of the barley going through, the malted one that's peated of it is only about 20% of it. Quite actually similar to the Highland Park from that side. So you're only talking maybe 20, 25 in there. Now, they're peating that through, and then they're putting it through. And their one is very much the distillations, the magic that they're adding. And you're on a coastal one there. So you're about to get some really now excellent flavours are coming through. So what's your first impressions on this one when you put that in the nose?
This is the first heavily peated whiskey that I have had in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I like it.
Isn't it? So that's the thing, though. Some of that heaviness is coming from a little bit from the peat, that smokiness, but some of it's the magic of their distillation. You were talking about the shape of the stills. They've got these different stills on there that really give it some really interesting notes. I mean, you'd probably just be smelling a dry smoke, even some meaty smoke there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what else are you getting?
A little bit of salt.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a lot of salt. Let's say you get this coastal right beside there.
The smoke and the salt together almost give me like a nice bacon. I love that like gristling fat.
Oh my goodness! Put some in now. Put some in the palate. Taste some in the tongue. Now you've just been smelling. Just taste it. After what you've just had, it's going to wake your. It's going to like revitalization. It's like you get a little fizz there of sea spray.
Very much.
Isn't it? Yeah. Warms the heart.
It does.
Nice long finish.
It's a good cold weather Scotch, I feel.
Yeah. Just gives you images of now.
Sit outside, get the coat on.
Yeah.
Sip some of this.
And this one actually goes really well if you want to do some accompanying things like some smoked salmon. A little bit of seafood with this goes well. Need a little bit of like sashimi smoked salmon. Tasting that, then had this. The two of them really complement each other very well.
What about like a smoked Gouda and some of the cheeses?
It's good. Easily support a nice little, even like a coastal cheddar cheese or something. It's gonna be heavy salted. It'll just balance really nicely with that.
This is just delicious. I mean, Talisker 10. I mean, it's fantastic. It's been recommended to be included in the classic malt series. It's a classic Talisker single malt, and it's just delicious.
Yeah, and I've got the 18. It's just a few years older than your one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's starting. The woods tames it off a little bit. They're done in bourbon casks. They're doing them typically. So just it refines off a little bit. So effectively, with the same whiskey as you, just a few years older. Absolutely delicious.
Did you know that this is the favorite whiskey of Robert Louis Stevenson, the guy who wrote Treasure Island?
No, I didn't.
I mean, this is apparently the episode where I talk about all the authors. We've done Robert Burns and George Orwell.
Yeah,
but,
and you're probably getting surprised about how many people were in Scotland through history. All these authors seem to go to Scotland.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Frankenstein, we were in Orkney.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Bram Stoker in the middle of Scotland. You've talked about George Orwell, and now you're talking about Robert Louis Stevenson.
So if you want to go somewhere and not be bothered, go to the Isle of Skye.
You go to Scotland.
Go to Scotland.
Yeah, you go to Scotland, choose an island.
Feel free to be creative. Exactly.
There you go. Yeah, Ryan, when you get ready to write your big story, your life story, you basically say, listen, I'm just going to retire to one of the islands of Scotland, write this story, knock it out.
It sure seems like there could be worse ways to live out my golden years,
Exactly.
And I mean, as we've talked about, the Isle of Jura, 200 people, unget-atable.
Exactly. Unget-atable, mountainous, and infertile.
Right. Plus, they got the lovely paps.
Yeah, look out at them paps every morning and say,
And you've got, and then just next door you've got like that powerhouse island, which we'll come to at one point.
Just swim across,
Yeah, daily swim.
Yeah, do a little kayak,
No, that's not where the whirlpool is, right? Between Jura and Isla, that's not the whirlpool.
No, it's on the north, right?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's further up. You're safe. You're safe from that.
We're talking about Toblerone. They got the shipwreck in the bay and everything. I mean, I can't imagine that there's not shipwrecks underneath that whirlpool.
Lots of gold.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting to see what's down there. This is absolutely delicious. Sorry.
I love this.
Yeah, Talisker would be in my short list of. I had to limit it to say my top 10 whiskies. Talisker would definitely be in that short list. And we've just done. You guys are doing the Talisker 10. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Maritime 1. It's good if you're not white. Go to a full peaty, smoky Islay experience. You're looking for something else. This is where you go to. You go to Talisker. This is your next stop. It's that like edge down from it. It's very approachable. It's not got like the full bitumen side of Islay. It's a little bit just different flavors and that you can really approach on this one here. So we tried the 10-year-old. So the next one, since we're not going to the island of Mull, Ryan, we're going to try.
Sorry,
we're going to go and see the special edition that was brought out.
Look at that.
The Game of Thrones. That for the Greyjoy family. It was brought out, and they brought out a Talisker. That one there.
So just because you drink this does not mean that you're going to end up like Theon. I just want to let all the viewers know.
That's true. I will say, though, so, okay, when the Game of Thrones came out with all their stuff, and we'll do a full Game of Thrones episode later, but when they came out with all their stuff and the various houses that they attributed to the various scotches, I don't think any was as perfectly paired as Talisker and Greyjoy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe Greyjoy should have been.
What you guys say here?
Jura, because just like Reek, it's barren and infertile. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week.
Well, that's true for Theon / Reek.
That would have been too much. That'd be cool.
If they ever made Harry Potter once, what do you?
Oh my goodness! Oh,
what do you think the Raven? What do you think the Ravenclaw distillery would be? What do you think?
I'm gonna give Ravenclaw Distillery to Highland Park.
I was thinking that exact same thing. I will be perfectly honest with you. What about Slytherin?
Ooh,
I was thinking like Ardbeg or something.
Ardbeg, I'm going there.
I was thinking
and
Ardbeg
dirty.
too.
Yeah,
you're going something that's on Islay. Yeah. Like the Slytherin. Oh my goodness.
What about Gryffindor? Would probably be maybe
McAllen or something like that.
McAllen.
Yeah, could it be like the Good Boys? It'd be like Good Boy, Good Girl, person one.
Good Boys and great at self-promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that'd be that one. What the houses are there? What's the other house?
Hufflepuff.
Good. Hufflepuff. Interesting. Would that be a Highland or a Lowland? What would be the Hufflepuff?
It would be. It would be one that's kind of like off kilter, sort of like we do Scotch.
No, maybe like Edward Hour. Like small and funky.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to do. Edward would be good for that one. Yeah, we need to like go and suggest this to them. Bring out a retro Harry Potter one. I was just actually. How old was the Talisker that they were using for this one, for the Greyjoy Select Reserve?
So it doesn't have on the bottle. It's a non-age statement.
It doesn't. No, it's a non-age statement of it, but actually we're using, and for some reason I've got like 9-year-old or they're using the 18-year-old in some non-age statement, 57 degrees north. Oh. So actually there's a blend of some of their nice whiskies. So that's the 18-year-old I was trying, plus they're using their
I really like this.
North.
I really like this better than the 10. This is great. This is fantastic. I love it.
It's really, really good.
This has a bit more subtlety to me than the 10. The 10 feels more in my face. This feels like it's got more complexity to it. The peat, I feel, is not as apparent. What do you folks think?
Wood is coming into this one, and that's where that 18-year-old is happening from that. And it's not got, interestingly enough, to your point, Ryan, not like the 10-year-old, this doesn't have any balls to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much smoother.
That was my joke, my Theon joke, no?
I got it now! Oh. It took me a minute, sorry.
No, okay. I'll leave it stand up to Ryan.
But no, it was good. It was good. It was good. I just didn't.
No, I liked it. You paid the iron price on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It's
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And so here's an odd thing. If ever we could get our hands on a bottle of old Talisker,
I wish.
it doesn't exist. Up until 1928, you're gonna laugh. It was a triple distilled whiskey.
Goodness.
It wasn't double distilled like the rest of Scotland and what it is today. It was more like the Irish one. So imagine this one, giving it another distillation. What would that do to it? Be interesting to know.
I mean, it would be all peat, right?
No, it'd be the
No,
reverse.
triple distilled. It'd be that triple distilled.
So that would take the peat out.
Yeah, it would. Well, it'd leave some of the peat, but it would just take some of like the more impurities are coming out.
Yeah.
And you're like thinking, what impurities? Because your tongue has been conditioned to it like that, but it just like make it even more refined than what it is.
More of the fats, more of the things would come out.
Yeah,
it would end up even more like the Irish whiskeys we tasted several weeks ago.
With a peat overture.
Yeah, with a peat overture. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh man, this was a great one to end on. It's so, and I like it because it's the most intense and the most complex of the ones we've tasted today. At least as far as my slightly tipsy brain is concerned, and it's just just delicious. I love it. What are you gentlemen going to end on? What drams will you be ending our session on today?
Well, with a nod to both of you and to Ryan, who was supposed to supply it, I'm going to actually have a whiskey from Mull. I'm going to have some of the dig. So what are you Texas guys going to have?
So I will be finishing this week on Balcones Lineage. It is a new bottle that I added to my collection only in the last couple of weeks. It's a Texas single malt whiskey, pot distilled from Balcones Distillery. And I've had it in 2 tastings thus far. In my original, like when I opened the bottle, and then yesterday in my D&D game, it was part of my tasting that I went through during my D&D. And I got to tell you guys, it's just I am far too big a fan of this particular bottle. It's not very often that I find a bottle that I just love this bottle, and I love this one. It tastes like pears. It's sweet. It's complex. It's not overpowering, and I love it. And I'm interested to see how it's going to do.
What is the ABV on that bottle?
Absolutely, sir. The ABV is 47, and does not have the intensity and heat that you would expect.
So I'm going to draw a line between what we've been having tonight and what Chance has been having. I have 2 bottles here I want to finish with. The first one is another Arran malt. This one is the port cask finish. So all of the Arran malt finishes are started in bourbon, and then they are finished in the wood. I have this bottle, and I also have the Sauterne cask finish. And the second one I'm going to have is another Balcones product. Balcones is a distillery from Waco, Texas, which is about 90-ish miles north of Austin. I think one of the older craft distilleries in the entire state of Texas. I have the Balcones Hechiceros, which is a port-aged single malt barley whiskey. Now this fella is bottled at 61.5% alcohol.
Oh,
so I'm going to be
basically.
I'm going to be putting more than a bit of water in this to open this fellow up, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
So that's
very much.
I was going to have a Balcones to join you guys. I was going to have this one, which is the Balcones Texas single malt whiskey, which happened to win the rewards. But what they've got the number 1. So this is the number 1 single malt whiskey from Balcones. But I'm not going to have that actually. Just to mess with you both, I'm going to have I'm trying to decide, do I have the Tobermory or do I have the Lechig?
I don't know, Gary.
So I think since I've been on
which one of those delicious whiskeys from the Isle of Mull do you think that we should have?
Wait, Gary, did you pronounce that Lechig?
Lechig, that's right. So even though you look at it, you think Ledig.
Yeah.
If you got to do the correct pronunciation, it'd be Lechig. That's how the locals pronounce it. So I'm going to have some of that. This is actually believe it or not, this is what you're missing. If that Talisker was in the 20s, this is in between the 30s and the 40s from a peat content. So it's a heavily peated one as well they're doing. And you look at it, if you look at the colour, you would pass this by. It's like a honey straw colour.
Yeah.
That's colour that you're getting from there. You can see it there. So it's not particularly like they're not doing any marketing gimmicks of adding any caramel to make it deeper.
Huh.
Just letting it. So I'm actually having a very lovely, heavily peated whiskey. Not quite as peated as your Islay whiskies now, but it's something from the Isle of Mull, which is Ryan. Which island is it? You were saying
It's the Isle of Mull.
Yes, and what is that? The fourth largest? You were saying?
The fourth largest island in Scotland.
Mull, we will come back to you. Don't hate us. We love you. We will come back. We promise. Eventually,
So
someday, maybe,
the,
hopefully.
The Arran Malt Port Cask, this is really good. This is bottled at 50% alcohol, so you get a lot of alcohol for your money. I have chosen to open this fellow up with a couple of drops of water, and I really love the mouthfeel of this whiskey. It has a very rich, almost unctuous mouthfeel to it. I really like the fact they didn't age it much longer in port than they do, because I think that when something is super port aged, the wininess really overwhelms the flavor of the barley. I think this is a really, really well-crafted whiskey.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all enjoying what we've got here. Different ones. Arran, the island of Mull, and Texas.
You know, I mean, so
just go together.
Texas, the second largest state in the Union.
Yeah. Back in Scotland, was
Lechig.
Back on the Isle of Mull.
No.
the fourth largest island in Scotland.
Hey, you've left me over here on the island.
Yeah.
On the island.
It's cool. Seems like you're having a pretty good time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look up Isle of Mull facts. Look at that city. It's a beautiful place. The Isle of Mull.
So they're doing like this. Tobermory is the unpeated one, and Tobermory is actually the town there, and you can see on it says 1798, and that was when that distillery was one of the older distilleries, legal distilleries in Scotland that they were doing there at the time. And interestingly enough, so then they went to peated, and that's where they got this one, this little monster that they've created. But it's very deceptive. Now, a lot of people would pass it by. You'd look at it, you see, oh, that light honey colour.
Mm-hmm.
That really I'm interested in that one there. But you've got a really nice alternative to having those heavy peated Islay whiskies like that. This one's a lovely example of that. If you want to really expand your collection,
Gentlemen, I gotta say, every time we drink together is a great Dre. Let's slange.
Slange, guys. Cling, cling.
Cling, cling.
If only we were on the Isle of Mull drinking together.
Well, that completes the Gents' journey through Arran, Jura, Skye, and almost Mull. Thanks for joining us on Dram and a Blether. And as always, please drink responsibly.